Can you guys hear this? Yeah, you can, because I can see it. It's just not my right microphone. So why is that not working? I never touch my microphone settings ever. It's been like a year since I've touched my microphone. Um, what happens if I switch it? Okay, well, is this tolerable? Because I it can't really explain without moving my camera, and that's not gonna happen. This microphone is literally located under my keyboard so that I can talk to AI. um, and so the quality is not going to be as good as this microphone. But I figured no audio versus that one is probably better. So I don't know what's up with my microphone. Um, very, very. Oh, I think it somehow got muted. Give me one more sec. I'm so sorry because I know this is a pain in the butt. We're gonna we're gonna try one more time. Testing. Oh, we're back in business. Yeah, so if you mute your microphone, it doesn't work. That's today's live stream. The end. Sorry about that. Okay, so what I was saying was we're gonna be. I was just complaining about the streaming platform, so you didn't really miss anything. Um, you got to watch me be a dummy. That's okay. So this stream we're going to do like we did last week. We're going to be coding with the Copilot CLI. What I was joking and rambling about was why the Copilot CLI? Why not Claude? Why not something else? No good reason. I've just been playing with the Copilot CLI for a little bit now. I know the first thing that most people will go to is, oh, it's because you work at Microsoft. You're trying to push the Copilot CLI. No, I'm just trying different things out so that I can keep playing with AI tools and learn more about them. So I used Claude a lot last year. Um, and so like Claude and Visual Studio are two things I go between a lot. But I wanted to play around with the Copilot CLI a little bit more recently. Let me block this person from chat. And so Copilot CLI is what I'm playing with. I need to carve out time for Codex because I've still never used Codex and I really want to play with it. And so Copilot CLI for me recently has been really cool because um, what I was saying while my microphone wasn't working, I'm going to say it wasn't working like it was broken, not because I was silly and had my microphone muted. While the mic wasn't working, I was saying that I'm an IDE user, right? I use Visual Studio. I'm a C# and .NET developer. I've been using Visual Studio as long as I've been able to walk, kind of thing. So I don't like working at a terminal. I don't like working in a console. And that was the same when I was using Claude, right? Like it's just not how I like to build, but I've for some reason and when I filmed on Code Commute this morning, I was talking about I don't really know the reason why, but Copilot CLI is kind of like got me back into using a terminal, kind of like I was using Claude before, and it's been enjoyable. So we're going to use it. I'm going to walk through, well, I don't actually know exactly what we're going to build. We're going to use Needler. And so Needler is the dependency scanning sort of system I've built that I use for like plugins and discovery and stuff like that. So I didn't like reinvent dependency injection. I keep wanting to describe it as a dependency injection framework, but then I feel kind of silly because I'm not like sitting here trying to claim like I made a new dependency injection system. I didn't. I just made a thing that scans for me, that looks for types, registers them in a common way. I like using it. So I want to be very clear. My goal with making, this live stream and some of the videos I've done on YouTube recently, my goal is not to convince you to go use Needler. I don't care. I think many people probably don't want to use it and won't enjoy it, and that's totally fine. But I think it's pretty cool to be able to work through some stuff, and we can see how Copilot will work for us. So, what I'm going to do, because I ramble a lot, is try to stop rambling. We're going to switch over. I'm going to put the repository for Needler in the chat so you can see it if you're interested. It's just on my GitHub. If you go to my GitHub/Needler, and I spelt it all catchy, like there's no, it's not ER, it's just R, because that makes it catchy automatically. And we're going to pull up Copilot, and I'm going to flip my screens over here. So hopefully we can see some stuff, right? There's a Copilot window. But this is just the GitHub page. It's got this little guy on it, right? Super, super cool. And yeah, so a lot of what you'll see in this repository is actually built by Copilot. And obviously Claude before. I was kind of using Copilot a little bit more. And before that, some Copilot, like GitHub Copilot in the cloud. Yeah, Ryan, good to see you. And yes, the spelling is unique, just like me. That's right. So a lot of the features and stuff I've been building recently have been completely driven by, like, there's so many commits on here now. And I guess it's kind of silly because when I was using Copilot in GitHub, like it will put Copilot, right, like as the author, but like all of these say they're me. And if you see like anything in here that's like fix, migrate, or, you know, feat, fix, blah, docs, like, nope, that's Copilot. All of it's Copilot. So it's been really cool. It's been working really well. And one of the things I just wanted to kind of say on this stream, because I was mentioning that I was talking about this on Code Commute this morning. Let me kind of flip back so I can talk with my hands a bit. But I asked this on LinkedIn and every other platform as well, but on LinkedIn I get more people responding. But I did a survey and I had asked people, when you are having AI generate code for you, like compared to a normal developer or not, like how much are you scrutinizing this code, right? Like when you go to review it, what's that look like? And it seems like it's quite split between like heavily scrutinize and it's basically tied for like treat it like any other developer, which is super interesting because I thought there'd be, I don't know which way, but I thought there'd be like a bigger separation, but it seems very much like those are pretty close. And so on Code Commute, I was talking about this where I said that, you know, for you guys, if you've watched the live streams before, you kind of know the stuff I talk about. Like I build Brand Ghost, and when I use Copilot in Brand Ghost or any AI tools, I have to scrutinize it really heavily because I notice that it's easy to get lost in the feature development. Like sometimes it like kind of goes crazy with architectural patterns, or the opposite. Like it just completely misses things. I was doing a feature earlier. I kicked it off before this stream. Copilot. I used GitHub Copilot, like in GitHub. It ran, and I would say it got the feature. I haven't actually run it myself, but I think it got the feature what I would consider like 85 to 90% of the way there. My review comments were very minor, like, hey, you have a string here, and I use a lot of strongly typed IDs. I think this should be a strongly typed ID. Or you used, you know, you're pulling stuff from app settings with this config class, and you made it so that this parameter is mandatory to be specified, but we can have a default here. Like, would it have worked? Sure. Like, it would have been fine, but I'm kind of being, I think rightfully so, like a little nitpicky because I don't want to go change it myself later. I just like get it done right now. So, in Brand Ghost, I have to be pretty picky, and I've been finding in Needler, like it breaks stuff all the time. And then instead of me going like, oh crap, how am I going to rewind all these commits? I'm just kind of pushing through with it. And I'm like, hey man, we built this feature. I gave you, you know, these guidelines, and you actually missed them, like in some of these steps. It's my fault too, because I should be reviewing it better and catching some of these issues. But instead of, like I said, rewinding, I just tell it, explain it, and then we just push forward. And it's been really cool that it is able to kind of go, okay, like let's get this thing back on track. So let's see, sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat here. Ryan says, so I have a question for you. A side project of mine is horribly designed, not set up in the clean code or other frameworks. Okay. What's your feeling of having AI refactor an entire solution to be styled in a standard architecture like clean code or whatever else? So, okay. I would say for something like this, especially because you're calling it a side project, right? If this was, something that was being shipped to customers and this was a business, I would say my answer would be very different here. Because when I think about at least businesses, I want to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to sustainably deliver value. So what I'm about to tell you, I think is in the face of that, like it would not line up. And so my suggestion is like, if you have it all committed, right? It's all committed. You got it pushed up to a remote branch. I would say it might be a really fun experiment. I don't know how much code we're talking about here because obviously the more code there is, the more of a pain in the butt. But I would basically sit down with AI, have a conversation with it, go into plan mode. Let me just kind of flip my screen for a sec. But like I would, and you don't have to use Copilot, use whatever you want, right? But like go into some plan mode. Cursor has plan mode. Copilot CLI has plan mode. Claude has plan mode. I think Visual Studio full on might have plan mode now. It should if it doesn't. I don't know why it wouldn't. And VS Code has it. So get into plan mode, and then like I would basically talk to AI about the state of your code base, ask it to analyze it, pick up on patterns, basically get it to build I don't want to call it a mental model, but for lack of a better word, mental model of your current code base, and then have a conversation with it in plan mode about like where you want it to be. Right. So whatever types of architectural patterns, like for me, I love plugin architecture. So I would say, hey, I want to move this thing to be more modular. I want plugins. Here's like what I'm thinking about plugins. If you want like clean architecture, hexagonal, whatever you want to do, describe it. And then I would spend some time going back and forth in the conversation with your favorite LLM, have it build up sort of a plan of what that looks like. And you could say like maybe start with, just as an example, like walk through what this would look like as a finished product, right? So you can look at that. Obviously, it's not going to be done, but like walking through an idea of what that looks like could give you some perspective of like, is that what you want? Right? Are you describing an ideal state? And I think for me, I like that because I can try to go, here's where we are, because you understand that. Here's what I'm seeing as an example of where we could be. And if that feels good, if you're like, yeah, like I think I really like the layout of that, if not, keep having the conversation. But once you land on something, then it gets interesting, well, even more interesting, because now you can work with your LLM of choice and try to figure out how do you get there. And there's a lot of options, right? You could say like, I don't know, run it in a Ralph loop or something until it looks like this. You could say, okay, cool. I'm going to stay in plan mode now that we have a finished product idea, for lack of better phrasing. And then like, how do I take steps to incrementally get there? Right. So I think it could be an awesome, experiment to try. Depending on your familiarity with the tooling you're using, like I would recommend doing something where you're like incrementally getting there. It might take way more steps. It might take longer to like get through. But personally, I would much rather, this is like how I do any software development. I would rather see incremental improvements moving in the right direction, because maybe partway through, I'm like, now that I see this, maybe I do want to steer a little bit differently. So I think you could totally do it. Yeah, that's kind of what I might recommend as a fun experiment to try. Devin says, I've been having a good success with scaffolding projects, folders, and some high-level classes. Seems to be as good as or better than instructions files. Interesting. TBD Gamer, I've got to the point that I only really work with small pieces of code. And the wider I let the AI tools go, the less I trust it. Okay, yep. Tinkered with building many new projects and working with some existing code bases. Claude and Copilot have been my go-tos. Awesome. And Devin kind of corrected himself as a scaffold by hand. Cool. Yeah. Okay, let's maybe kind of flip over to, oops, that's not what I want to do. I want to just move my window. There's too many things to click. So what I'm thinking we're going to try out, couple things. Before I got on this stream, one of the things I was trying to do was I have this documentation that gets generated. Yes, it looks basically just like this. But there's a little bit more interaction that we can do because I think yesterday, I was spending some time getting benchmarks running. So now on like separate from in GitHub, I have this page. If you pay attention to the URL, I know the text is small and I'm flipping back and forth, but GitHub, and then this is just my domain. And so I have this GitHub Pages thing set up for Needler, has the documentation, and it will go print out the benchmarks, which is pretty cool. The goal with the benchmarks is not to try and say, like, look how fast Needler is compared to other things, because in some cases it's actually slower. Right? Like, that's the goal, is not for it to be completely the fastest thing. Like, if I have the benchmarks, cool, I can chip away at that. But I had, this, everything you're seeing on my screen right now is vibe coded with Copilot CLI to be able to drop my benchmark results into here. If I don't run the benchmarks on code for a week, and there's new changes since the last time, every week, once a week, it will go run the new benchmarks and update here, which is pretty cool. Because I don't run the benchmarks on every commit, not worth it. But anyway, this is all vibe coded. I thought it was pretty cool. Could probably do some better navigation and stuff. I don't know anything about HTML though. Hyperlinks, JavaScript stuff. And so the last thing I was just working on before this though was getting an actual API reference in place. And this is vibe coded. It's very obviously vibe coded because it's completely busted. So before I got on to stream, this list of packages was like the same two or three things like over and over times 100. I don't know how it even decided to get there. And this is still broken. So it's cool because it's getting there. Let's pick, Source Gen. We can go into Source Gen. We can go into this. And so like, this is pretty neat that there's API docs. There's some busted stuff like this, right? So cool. Like maybe one example we can try out is we'll very quickly have Copilot go fix something like this. I have to tell it the list of packages is busted. So we can try that out. And we're just going to kind of go back and forth. And what I want to do before the end of the stream is I actually want to spend a little bit of time, maybe while we're waiting for some of the CI builds and stuff to go. I want to go into plan mode, and I want to show you guys how I've been like kind of working with Copilot in my code base to get some ideas. And when something clicks, I'm like, that sounds neat. We go build it. A bunch of features have been suggested by Copilot, and I'm like, we don't need that, but it's kind of cool. Like, we should try building it. So we'll try that out. Ryan says, I think one of the things that I struggle with AI is the fact of how often you have to update the Copilot instructions file. Yeah, this is, I know that when I'm saying this, some AI, tech guru is going to be like, it's skill issue, bro. But I agree very much with Ryan. I feel like a lot of the instruction file things that we're doing here feel like, what's a good way to say this? We've been living in a world with like, the most advanced like Photoshop, and now we're like going back to paint tooling to like put some instructions in a file that we check in. It just feels kind of ridiculous. I don't have a better way to explain it, but I feel excited that we're very early and that all of the tooling around like instructions and like I've been building skills recently, not like my own skills, but I mean like agent skills to go execute. So I've been doing that a bunch over the weekend, and like the way that this stuff is done and managed, it just feels like it's way behind. It feels so silly. So it'll get better. It must get better. But yeah, updating instructions files and stuff like that just feels like feels off to me. Okay, let's have a look here. I kind of I don't have a lot of screen real estate, so I'm going to keep this right here for just a moment. And what I wanted to do is say, get out of plan mode. We have a few fixes to make in Needler. And then another thing too, like I don't trust Shift Enter in this window. I know it doesn't work in Claude, but me doing this to get a new line is like not okay by me. That's not natural. Shift Enter, just like things like that. So first thing, one, the generated docs have incorrect escaping, and then I'm just going to give it an example. And maybe I should be more specific. The generated API docs, because it has fixed some of these escape issues in other areas previously. So I think there's probably different spots and how things are formatted that it's not working. And the API doc generation is very new. So that probably came after it made a fix for some other spot and kind of reintroduced the problem. The docs aren't being tested. Like, I don't know, that kind of just cut out because on my side, my stream dropped. But my internet is at full everything from what I can see on my side. So I'm just curious. It's not showing. You can't see what I'm typing. Sorry. Full list of packages that are part of Needler. And then what I wanted to do is if I go back over here, I'm going to give it some links. If you check here, there are more packages that are being published. If you look in the solution, there are more as well. I'm trying to give it some examples, by the way, because you didn't see this because it was before the stream, but I've already gone through this and it did one round of fixes and it's not sufficient. Ryan says, do you know of any way to make it so that, say, anytime you commit code that it would automatically update the Copilot instructions file? Depending on the tools you're using, you could probably do some stuff like this. So I'm not a Claude guru, but I am sure there are tool hooks you could put in. And how you want to do this could look very different, I think. Oh, interesting. The video hangs with the... Okay, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. My stream right now in my tool is like, there is no video. And it says like, health is excellent, bitrate is very high, blah, blah, blah. The whole time my internet's been fine. OBS, which I have on this screen. So if you ever see me talking this way, I'm looking at myself or my screen. And so that's been fine. So I don't know what happened. Apologies. Ryan, to your question, though, lots of different ways to do this and how you do it could impact things. So if you use hooks inside of something like Claude, I don't know if Copilot has a similar kind of tech, but probably you could do... you could look this up, or you could even ask Claude or Copilot, but there's probably tool hooks that you could do. I think they have pre and post hooks. You could also make it so that in Git, you have a commit hook. And so you could wire up things to Git. I think it will depend on what you want to do, how often, but one of the things that I'm playing with, I mentioned, is skills, right? So what you could do is maybe you make a skill and your agent is able to use it. Now, it might not be as consistent as you want, but I don't know your specific use case, and that kind of, I think, changes how I might make recommendations around it. But if you had a skill and you were talking to, say, you're talking to Copilot or Claude, and you're saying, oh, commit the code now, and you can basically provide an instruction to use skills on certain keywords. And so if you say commit the code, and it was wired up to also know about a skill, it could commit the code, and then it goes, oh wait, like I'm seeing this match here, I need to go run this skill. And that skill could do something like going and updating the instructions file. So I think there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And like, I don't know, like, give me one sec. Do I got another window here? Okay. I don't want to be in this directory, I don't think, but okay. I want to know how I can write a hook or callback of some sort so that when you commit code, or okay, let me say this, when code is committed in the repository, also run an update to the instructions file, and then I'll say IE so I would just do something like this, to be honest. And so I wanted to use this as an example because I think this is how I've been approaching a lot of things, where I'm like, I know that there's a bunch of ways we could do this. I don't know what the right or best answer is. For Ryan, I think it's really going to depend on your situation. Right, so it's calling out git hooks. I don't know what Husky configuration is. I've never heard of Husky. Other agent instruction files like Claude. Okay, so now this is the cool part about plan mode, and I mentioned this in other videos and stuff, but you don't need plan mode to get this kind of behavior, right? You can give it instructions to guide you through something like this, but I think it's cool that plan mode kind of almost forces it, right? So I understand you want to automatically update this when code is committed. Let me clarify a few things. What should trigger the update? Pre-commit runs locally before the commit's made. Post-commit runs locally after the commit. A GitHub action, a pre-push hook, or other. And this is where, just to spice things up, I would say, are there options to have the LLM tool calls have a callback instead? Sometimes, and I'm not telling you something that you all don't know, but just saying it out loud. Sometimes when I ask questions like this, the side effect is that it thinks that I'm suggesting we need to go do that. So depending on the scenario, sometimes when I'm talking, let me move this around. Sorry, I know it's kind of at the bottom of the screen. Sometimes when I'm talking and giving responses like this, I try to be explicit where I'm like, hey, like, I'm just seeking information, like to try and remind it, don't go off the rails and go crazy thinking I'm suggesting this. Yeah, I feel like if there's a way to accomplish this, it'd be a huge win for keeping the instruction files updated. Yeah, I think like, I do think it depends on your use case, right? So what you want in the instructions file, that kind of stuff. Maybe you run a hook that's like, this might be crazy depending on the size of your code base, but like do another analysis of the code base, look at the common patterns, make sure that the guidance that we have in the instruction file is accurately representing the patterns that we have. It's like stuff like that. And now it's saying, interesting, you're asking about an LLM tool call callback. Can you clarify what you mean? Are you asking about GitHub Copilot agent callbacks? Okay. A hook that fires when Copilot completes a task. MCP server hooks, a callback from, so we have, gonna do a little shout out in Brand Ghost. We have an MCP server. We're still working on it to add more features and stuff, but we tried it the other day, and like from ChatGPT, you'll be, and whatever else you want to hook it up to, you'll be able to actually make social media posts through Brand Ghost from an MCP server. Right now, it's just like letting you query your accounts and stuff like that, but we already have API calls, obviously, to be able to post stuff. We'll just wire that up to the MCP server. Custom VS Code extensions, LLM API callbacks, webhooks from an LLM service. So like, again, to Ryan, your question, like I think there's a ton of different ways to do this. I don't know what the right answer is, but yeah. And so on the planning mode for I'm answering Ryan's other question here. So He says the fact that the CLI allows you to select one of the answers, hasn't seen that before. But yeah, so I think Claude does this, Copilot does it, Cursor does something like this, and it's nice. But again, for everyone that's like so gung-ho about CLIs, what you can't tell when I'm doing this is that when it gave me the other options, that forces you to type on one line. You might not know because you're not the one typing at the keyboard. And if you've never seen it, you certainly wouldn't know. But if you try to do the new line thing there, it just submits it. Like, like, I don't, CLI is not the right tool for having this kind of thing. I just, I don't know. But here we are. And that's okay. So yeah, anyway, I think this is, a path, Ryan. I would recommend you try this out. Go into plan mode. It doesn't have to even be in Copilot. Like, go to ChatGPT and have the conversation, right? And I think that you could come up with some pretty cool ideas. I would definitely recommend it. Question in the chat. I want to ask a question. Is programming worth it when AI is out there? I'm a student second year. It's absolutely worth it. I'm a student second year. I learned Java and haven't been feeling programming anymore. It became hard and replacing. Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, especially getting started, right? I can absolutely understand that it's going to feel demotivating when you're the one kind of getting started and learning about things, and you're looking around and you're seeing, all these AI tools kind of just like blasting out code, and everyone's building all this stuff, and you have people that have never seen a line of code before and they shipped 1 million lines of code, and you're like, well, what the heck, man? Why am I bothering? Absolutely learn to program, learn software engineering. I will keep telling people that. I do not care how many executives are telling people this, we're 5 months out from replacing all the developers. Nope. It's just not reality. All of these tools are enabling us to do so much more. And yeah, are there things that AI can do that, like, it does better than me? Like, yes, absolutely. I just, at the beginning of the stream, I was showing people that I had AI go build, I vibe coded, automatic documentation and stuff for my CI builds. Could I go figure that out? 100%. I've been programming for over 20 years. I can figure that out. Do I want to? Absolutely not. I could not care any less about the process of doing that. What's really different, I think, for people getting started is that instead of falling into that trap I just said, well, like, hey, man, I'll just get AI to do it. I don't have to learn. I don't have to learn that. I've been doing this for forever. I choose to not want to go learn that because I don't want to spend my time on that. There's a million other things I want to go spend my time learning about. For you, it might be a very good opportunity. Every time you're running into something that you don't know, you stop. And you have one of the most powerful tools ever that a lot of us didn't get to have when we were learning. And that is the same thing spitting out the code that we're using. So I do recommend to you, like, don't shy away from AI, but I also wouldn't have it go do everything for you and you never try to learn or ask questions. I think it's absolutely worth it to get into software engineering. I will keep saying this, but when you're using AI tools or you're trying to learn things and you're getting stuck, it is normal to get stuck. It is good that you get stuck. When you're getting stuck and unsticking yourself is when you learn. So do that. Get stuck. Think on problems, get stuck and be like, I have no idea what the heck to do. Walk away from it. Go play video games for a bit. Go for a walk. Go do something else. And come back to the problem with a fresh mind. You'll often solve problems when you're not at your desk. Okay? And if you're still stuck and you have no way forward, ask AI for some help. Don't say, go do this for me. Or if you do, always go back and ask it to explain. And if you don't get it, ask it to explain in different ways. You have such a powerful tool at your fingertips. For many of us, if we didn't know things, we'd have to keyword search it on Google. So you have to know the right thing to go search. And if you don't even know what you're doing, good luck. So we'd all end up at Stack Overflow, and you're not allowed to ask a question there because you'll get kicked off the internet. So no asking questions. You got to know the right keywords. And at the end of the day, you eventually find an answer and you're like, I have no idea why this works, but like, okay. And you see problems like that enough that you learn, but you have such a powerful tool to ask questions to. So I do encourage you, please don't give up on it. Is it challenging right now? Absolutely. It's absolutely challenging. But not all of this is because AI, right? There was a lot of weird stuff with hiring ramping up when everyone went fully remote for a bit. AI layered on top of that. You have a whole bunch of things going on, but don't give up on it. I think there's a lot of opportunity ahead. And if I'm wrong on that, like I don't have a crystal ball. If I'm wrong on that, I think the skills that you pick up going through software engineering are ridiculously powerful. Right? The analysis skills, the problem solving skill. You don't want to do this. And he said because all of the steps going through that he thinks are incredibly valuable. And he's right. There's a lot of really valuable skills that you learn going through engineering. It doesn't have to be school, but applying those principles, right? So I do encourage you to keep going. Yeah, Devin says, conceptually, I know LLMs don't really care about white space, but I care. I do too, man. DJ Neo, good to see you, man. DJ says, I don't use AI in most school and personal projects. I'll use it for freelance work to speed things up. But it's not doing things that but it's not doing things that I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I think it depends on what your goals are, right? And I think for a lot of people, goals should be around learning. They should be. There's like I was kind of joking about being serious. There are absolutely things on like, CI documentation. I don't want to learn that. I just don't. Do I think it's cool? And do I want it? Yeah. Especially if I can get it for low effort. I don't want to learn it. What I really want to learn is how source generators work. That's something that I've wanted to spend time on in .NET for a long time and just haven't made time for it. So now that I'm vibe coding a bunch of them, now when they're not working or I want to extend them, like I'm forcing myself to get into it and learn. So I'm just kind of refocusing my time and attention. Audio's not working again? Come on. I see it working on my side this time. Or is that a delayed message from before? It's got to be working. Come on, give me a sign. I'll cry if it's not working again because I don't have a solution this time. Okay, I'm jumping over here again. And what I wanted to show was that... Not that. Wrong solution. Let me close that. I don't want to show you all my source code for Needler or for Brand Ghost. Yeah. Okay, it is working. Nice. Love it. Okay, Needler code. Let's get the right solution up here so you guys don't steal all my secrets. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to do was tell Copilot. That's so weird. I wonder what's going on. Should I try while I'm streaming to do a speed test and just see? Let's do it. I'm going to run it over here so you guys don't see my top secret IP information. Well, let's see how crazy this goes. Start her off. It's not where it should be, but it's not bad. I got 130 megabits down. It's supposed to be a gigabit. I'm on Wi-Fi though, so that's going to be limited. And I got 100 megabits up. So it should be okay. I don't know what's up. The video's out of sync with the audio? Come on. What is going on? I should turn subtitles or something on. You guys can be like a movie. Okay, the other question here in the chat is On my third year, I can choose if I want to learn software engineering, web apps, algorithms, game programming, or data analytics. What do you suggest is better for programming, mind forming? If you want, sorry, you can choose. If you can choose software engineering out of that, I absolutely would. I think if you, I don't have the details of what all these are going to cover. Game programming, I think, seems like it's sexy on paper. I don't know a single person that has gone into game development and they're like, "This is it." I think it kind of, I don't want to say tricks people, kind of tricks people. Don't get me wrong. If I didn't have to work for money, I would be absolutely making games because I think games are awesome. Web apps, I think that if you're doing software engineering, you'll be covering web applications most likely. I know there's some people who are going to say data analytics or data engineering or data stuff. They're like, that's where it's all at. I don't know. If you want to learn programming, I would say, yeah, do software engineering. Algorithms are, of course, interesting. I think that's going to have a heavy math focus. I don't know. I think for some people that works really well. I don't like thinking about math when I'm building stuff, so not for me. So bizarre. Well, I'm so sorry that my stream's all wonky. We'll get through it though. I believe it. So I want to go back to my screen share here. And then I need to tell it. Oh, I already did. If you look in the solution, there's more as well. This needs to be corrected. Let's start with that. Nice. Okay, so if it's all of your fault. It's not it's not my fault. Refresh your pages. Question in the chat, what do I do? What do I do for work? I am a software engineering manager at Microsoft, so I manage engineering teams in the Office 365 side of the world. In particular, my team is the part of the routing plane. So we do the traffic for all of Office 365 and actually beyond that, which is super cool. So we do trillions with a TR, trillions of requests per day. And then one of the things that I get to work on is the firewall, which is super fun. Yeah, that's what I do now. I used to work in digital forensics, building software at a company called Magnet Forensics, which was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, been an engineering manager for about 13 years now. And I still love coding all the time. Cool. So what's Copilot doing? I gave it some instructions to go fix some stuff. I just want to point out that so it is looking in my code folder, but it is also using the URLs. Okay, so sometimes depending on what I'm building, how I'm building it, sometimes I'm building in Brand Ghost, and instead of saying like, oh, go look at the docs online for Needler, I'm just like, dude, Needler is literally here on my computer. It's right there. Just go look at it. So, because if I don't, sometimes it's like, I don't know what that is. I have to go search the internet. Don't be doing that. Just go on the computer. So it's found the issue. The heading shows this with escaped backslashes. That's right. We don't want that. Let me investigate how packages are determined for documentation. So that's the other part. Now I understand the setup. I love when it says stuff like that, and then there's just like a block of red. Like, do you understand? Because something's not right. So now I understand the directory build props automatically marks all projects starting with this as packable. Unless they end with test, let me create a plan to understand the issue fully. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff missing. And it's cool because I didn't do the math on it, but I know, for example, I did notice this one was missing, for sure. I didn't notice these other SignalR ones were missing. This one is interesting because I agree with this statement from it. So it says that that package or that project is missing, but it says this may be internal or not packable. And I think that's true. I think it's a shared project that we embed in two other spots. Do I ever feel that this isn't for me and ready to quit? Not anymore. When I was in university, I felt this all the time. So, a little bit of background: I went to the University of Waterloo for computer engineering, and so before university, I think probably maybe not for everyone, but I think for many people, if you're highly technical, that kind of stuff. For me, I did really well in high school. I didn't even have to try, and I got good marks and stuff, and I was like, this is great. Like, this is gonna be like this for the rest of my life. Like, it's just things come pretty easy academically. Absolutely not. In university, I went from fast tracking math classes. I got to go to high school for math a year in advance. So when I started in grade 9, I was doing grade 11 math. That was like my identity, was being like, I got to be smart and not really have to try. Doesn't work that way for forever. So when I got to university, I went from being like very easily getting good marks to like almost failing everything. And that was crazy for me. I had never seen marks close to 50% or 60% ever. And everything was like 50 and 60%. So university for me was 5 years long, and there were no breaks because it was internships. So every other semester, we'd have school, and then we'd have an internship for 4 months, and back and forth for 5 years straight. And so every single school semester, every single one, starting from the first one, I would say, what the heck am I doing here? This is not for me. This is not okay. It's not like, I'm terrible at this. I don't like what I'm doing. Then I would go on an internship, and I was like, holy crap, yes. If this is what I get to do when I graduate, absolutely yes. And then I would go back to school and I would hate it. Right. And this happened for almost 5 years straight. By the end, and I'm almost done. I'm like, the light's at the end of the tunnel. That's okay. But definitely during school, all the time, always felt like it. So don't give up. You will feel like that. That's part of it, right? The people that stop are the people that lose. The people that keep going are the ones that eventually make it. I know I had people in my class that failed. I had people that were in the call it the class ahead of me, right? The year ahead of me, that failed and came into my class, and they kept going. There are people that failed a couple of times and they kept going, and they've gone on to do very well in their careers. Okay, so don't give up on things, right? If you don't enjoy what you're doing, genuinely, if you are doing the work, you don't enjoy programming or software development, don't force yourself to do it if you don't enjoy it. But I personally found that I loved building stuff, right? I've always described programming as like having an infinite number of Lego bricks of any shape I want. And I love building with Lego. I've always loved building with Lego. So that's been, for me, like a really cool thing, right? So I've always enjoyed it outside of work. I realize not everyone wants to program outside of work. That's cool. I do. That's why we're here. So I hope that helps. So Copilot found some stuff in Needler. I love it. The issue's clear. Now I understand the issue. By the way, I had a really funny loop the other day where it was like, it's clear. And then it was like, but wait. And then right after, oh, it's clear now. Now I understand. Uh-oh. And it did this for like pages. And I'm like, I should stop this before we consume all of the water on the planet. But issues clear, / escaping is coming from either the markdown generation or something in the documentation pipeline. That doesn't sound clear to me. That sounds like you don't actually know still. This mentions markdown, sanitization regex. Okay. It's looking up some of the package information for how the documentation works. Now it really understands. Right now I understand the issue. However, create a new plan. So did I run this in plan mode? I thought I ran the other one in plan mode and not this one, but we'll see. So it made a new plan. Issue 1, incorrect escaping. Solution is to modify this regex in this JSON to exclude angle brackets. Seems reasonable. This one too says missing packages. That's the big one. Docs show 9 packages, but they're 20. Yes. This script, which it made, only finds XML files in the release path, but source generators and other projects may have different output configurations. Solution, update the script properly to discover all packages. Yeah. And so just to show you, I'm not in plan mode, because if I press Shift Tab right now, now I'm in plan mode. So I'm kind of surprised it planned for me. I'm not mad. I think it's cool. But I wasn't in plan mode. But you could see, bloop. Let's make a plan. Rock on, buddy. Let's go. I like being nice to it when I'm not raging at it, because when I rage at it, I feel like these AI tools are training me to be the most terrible person. Because when I'm mad at these things, I'm like, I'm not having a good conversation with these LLMs. So I try to be nice when I'm in a good mood. Ryan says, I love how all these LLMs are constantly just so positive, always reassuring you that it knows what's happening and all. Yeah. Nobody knows what's going on, man. Handle line breaks are true still, and then it's adding in markdown sanitization regex. By the way, I noticed in Copilot CLI, one of the things, and this is a reason why I suggest people try using out different tools a bunch. I find in Claude, it will ask you for like to approve things, right? And it will remember, which is great. But if you look, this is a perfect timing for this. If you look at the one that's on the screen right now, do you want to run this command? There's a yes and a no. Okay. I will never, based on what options are here, I will never be able to say yes and do this. Like, don't make me approve this again. Anytime it tries to do something like this, it's going to ask me. And it's a huge pain in the butt. So that's one of my gripes right now, is that some of the flows that it gets into, like this one, the same thing, approve. And like, I just want it to go. Just do it. And yes, it has a mode that you can like do YOLO mode and stuff like that, but I don't want to YOLO everything. I don't want to every single time approve a get child item. It's not okay. I find Claude does a better job at some of that for, the approvals. Cursor, and I'm just kind of going from memory from some stuff this weekend. Cursor seemed pretty good too. Like, it was asking me for a couple of approvals and then it was just off to the races. But hey, like, I know this stuff's here for a reason so that we don't screw up like crazy, but this is going to get better. It'll get more intuitive. It'll be okay. So now it's going. These packages clearly have public types. I know they do. It's been doing this a bunch too. I just want to see if I can stop it for a sec. I think I might look in the file list comparing against what's tracked in Git versus what's in the CI build environment. And this has been kind of irking me, because ever since I've been doing a little bit more stuff with Copilot to go build out like CI workflows, like we're doing right now with documentation generation, one of the things that's been bothering me is it's almost like gaslighting a bit, where it's like, it's probably not my problem. It's probably just how this thing over here is like, it's just different. And it's like, it's not supposed to be different, man. You built it. It's not supposed to be different. But that's okay. Excellent. Looking at the CI logs, I can see the documentation is being generated. So this is cool, by the way. I know it's kind of just flying by, and maybe the text and stuff is small. Like, I can't really tell because this is on a quarter of my monitor right now. But if you look here, list GitHub Actions workflows in a repository. Get GitHub Actions workflow job logs. Try saying that. I dare you, because it's not easy. And it's actually querying the GitHub API. So it's looking at my CI flow that ran in GitHub. So it's looking and seeing, ooh, like that's what ran there. Got another approval that I can't allow perpetually, which is annoying. And again. So yeah, Ryan, great question. So I have to ask, what makes you prefer the CLI over doing it through the built-in chat inside of VS or VS Code. This is a terrible, a terrible example because of these approvals. So this is not a good case of it shining. What I want to do, we're getting to the top of the hour. I'm going to go a little bit longer because I didn't think it was going to take this long to get this far. What I want to do is show you the planning part that I've been doing with it, and that to me that's been a really good experience. And the more like in Code Commute, I've been trying to touch on this a little bit. I can't put my finger on why some of the things I'm doing in the command line actually feel good, because I am the first person to tell you I do not like using a terminal. I want to be in Visual Studio. I feel like the chat. Hopefully I'm back. Yeah, as Devin's saying, the CLI for Copilot Code feels like typing with mittens on. I do agree for most of it, but the planning stuff that I've been doing, like, one sec, can I pull this up? Just to kind of show you, because like I said, I'm the first person to say that I'm not a huge fan of like working in a terminal. I think I showed this in a video or a live stream the other day, but like, I'm just gonna scroll so you can see how many, like, what Copilot's been doing for me. And I'm not showing this to be like, oh, I've shipped 1 million lines of code. I'm just just showing you because it's been incrementally chipping away at things. And like, let me do this. Let me get the main branch here. No, literally not what I wanted. Okay. I'm just gonna scroll. Right, all of this. That's all Copilot building stuff for me. And I don't know why, but it has felt good to be in the terminal doing it. Otherwise, no, because as it's building stuff, I really like sitting there with, depending on what the features, I like sitting there with Copilot and seeing what it's doing. And as it's doing it, I'm in Visual Studio checking on things, being like that's not right. I think there's some features like this here where you can see at the bottom where it says Control plus D to enqueue. Like, that's super cool. Cursor does a really good job of this. Like, it's doing stuff and you type a message because you're like, stop doing that, that's wrong, and it sends it off and kind of just like changes gears. Like, I really like that versus just outright stopping. Oh, it appears when you're doing CLI stuff, it's bogging down your network. Come on, there's no way it's opening up a trillion connections. Maybe. Show git diff. Let's go. Do it. Yeah, man, I was on Claude Pro Max or whatever for a while there last year, and then I stopped using Claude because I was just like, I was doing so much development through GitHub Copilot, like agents. So I'm like, I don't need Claude Pro Max, but now when I use Claude, I'm on Claude Pro not Max, and I run out of credits like in like 20 minutes. I'm like, dude, this is the worst. Okay, one sec. So it says it's done. I'm surprised. Oh, it's a new chat session from before. It's not my other chat session. It was committing stuff, and then it was like approve pushing, and I'm like, you don't get to push to my repo, man. Like, there's no way. I see your question in the chat. Any tips on efficiently using AI? I will talk a little bit about that. And so if we're looking at this, only include the XML folder matching its package name. Oh, let me zoom in, sorry. This excludes DLLs that are copied other projects. Look directly in the project's own bin folder, not in test project folders that reference them. So we do need to exclude test benchmarks and the example projects. It even called out this one, right? That's a shared one. So it has explicit exclusions here. That's right. I can't, the highlighting's not working, sorry. So it added that one. I don't know. This seems fine. Now, which one of you is going to go test this regex? No one, right? We're going to push this up. It's okay. Make the commit. Okay. For the question that's in the chat, any tips on efficiently using AI? I will try to answer your question, but I need to ask you a question back, which is, what are you trying to do? What tools are you using? Give me a little bit more context, and then I will try to tailor my answer to best suit you, because I think there's a lot of things to be able to say about this, and it might not feel helpful without a little bit more context for what you'd like. Okay? So if you give me a little bit more detail, I will give you even more detail back. So we're going to take this, we're going to push it, and it's probably going to break the build, and that's okay, because that's all it's been doing. Good thing it's still an alpha. So I will check that in a moment. Ryan says, I'm not sure I could truly justify paying for Copilot as well as Claude each month. Yeah, I just don't do enough coding. That's fair. Push regulated broad. Yes. I push stuff on Fridays. I'm not scared. Take care, Devin. Good to see you. So I will check the build in a bit. I wanted to do this other quick experiment here with plan mode. So here's what we're going to do. I want to speak this out. Is this thing on? Oh yeah, we're good. Okay. Uh-oh, are we not good? Okay. I would like you to analyze the current state of the code base to look at the different features and capabilities of Needler. I'm using, not sponsored by them. It would be nice to be sponsored by someone so I can pay for my tokens. But I'm using Whisper Flow, by the way. So I have a foot pedal under my desk. You can't see my hands, but I'm not typing on the keyboard when I'm doing this part. So I use a foot pedal and Whisper Flow, and it's doing the transcription for me. Is this kind of stuff built into Windows and other operating systems? Yes. Whisper seems to do a pretty good job, so I'm pretty happy with it. So what I want to say next, I wanted to look at the features and capabilities of Needler. Our primary focus is around building source-generated functionality for a better developer experience related to dependency injection. What else do I want to say? I'm interested in exploring new features that we could build into this offering, and that means exploring different languages and other tech stacks that have dependency injection. One of the interesting opportunities for us is that we can focus on some of these different features that we currently don't support and see if there are opportunities to bring them to Needler using source generation. And then I'm going to say, I would like you to be creative with your options and provide some brief examples to explain how you see these different capabilities fitting into Needler. I've been doing something like this, not the exact same prompt, roughly something like this, firing it off and just seeing what comes back. And I've built some pretty neat stuff that I wasn't ever thinking of putting into Needler because I don't need it. I don't Needler it. Get it? I don't need it, but it just felt like it was cool. And if it's going to go build it, like, why not? Let's explore. Ryan, what kind of foot pedal do I have? I don't actually know. Is it a... Oh, it is. It's the same brand. It's a Stream Deck pedal or something. What's the brand that makes Stream Deck? I feel stupid right now. Elgato, that's what it's called. It's an Elgato foot pedal. From what I saw online, I think a lot of people were just using all sorts of super cheap Amazon foot pedals. I have a bunch of like Elgato lights and stuff. So I was like, I'll stick to a brand that I know at least. Okay, we got some more context. I work mainly with backend and infrastructure tools. In my project, I use Go for the core services, Postgres, Redis, Docker, use Cloud Agent, MyID, but rate limits really fast. Yeah, okay. So I don't have good advice on this part in particular because I have not done it. But there are apparently lots of options online that people are doing. If you have decent hardware, a lot of people are going to like, what is it? Like there's Olama and there's some other, what, I can't remember the name, like Open, not Open AI. Man, I can't remember what it's called. But basically, people are like self hosting models. And so then they're using Claude pointing at self-hosted models or using other AI tools pointing at these self-hosted models. I, to be transparent, like I'm in a position where, or maybe it's not obvious, I don't know, but I'm in a position where like my expenses for doing stuff like I'm doing right now, anything that I make from content creation basically goes back into, paying for things like this. So Claude Pro Max felt like a little bit obscene to pay for because I was also paying for like Cursor and for Copilot. And I was like, no, I don't use Claude enough for that. I don't know I think I canceled my Cursor, whatever license. So I don't even know what I pay for Cursor. Maybe I'm still paid up front and I'm kind of running through the plan and it's going to die soon. But for me, the budget for Copilot, I think I spent $150 last month. And so what do I use that for though? Like I'm building Brand Ghost with it. I'm building all sorts of stuff. It lets me, do this kind of thing where I'm making content for videos and things like that. So for me, it's worth the cost. My YouTube and all that kind of stuff, like I tell this to people all the time because I'm pretty transparent about it. I lose money from making YouTube videos. Editing costs and stuff alone just eat away at that. Even my channel that I don't do editing for, which is called Code Commute, I do 5 videos a week that are just vlog style, no editing, record them, upload them. I lose money on that because I drive in the lane on the road that has a toll. So all my channels lose me money, but I do make money off courses. And that's only because it's on, the biggest course platform for C# developers. So that money just goes back into this kind of stuff. And that way I can keep making YouTube videos and it's okay. The ad revenue for YouTube videos is not okay. So if there is a sponsor out there that wants to sponsor my stuff, please, it would be cool. I just need to cover my editing costs. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer on like more effective use cases for token costs and stuff like that. I don't know. I think something that could be helpful though, even if you're using either free or cheap options, is if you're able to go between different tools. Say there's a handful of free tools and you can use them effectively. Like you might be able to figure out how to prioritize what you do in each, right? So maybe as an example, maybe it chews up a lot of token usage to go do planning like I'm showing you right now, right? And you're like, dude, like I'm gonna run out of tokens like instantly. Okay, like maybe ChatGPT is a good tool for that, right? You can have those conversations. It's not so bad, and it's able to do, some pretty interesting stuff. Like I still use ChatGPT all the time for building. So maybe you use ChatGPT for that. And then you go I'm just making this up. You find Cursor's really good at like refactoring some of your code and Claude's really good at writing your tests and Copilot's really good at something else. And if you can go between your tools for different tasks and use like the cheaper versions or the free versions, maybe that's a good strategy. So maybe try that. But there are definitely things if you go digging like Olama, some other stuff where you can get models for free, but I think you gotta run them yourself. Let's see what Copilot has to say. Top 5 high priority features. Okay, this one's come up a bunch. It's called it different ways before. Gemini gives away tokens on the free tier like Oprah Winfrey. Good to know. I don't use much for Gemini anything, so that's really good info. Thanks, DJ Neil. So this conditional registration one comes up a lot. It's this time mentioning coming from Spring, but basically it says config driven DI with conditional on. So the way, and it's probably in the actual plan file. It's one thing I don't like is that it wrote this to a plan and then it writes some things in the chat, but if I open that plan file, I bet it has more detail. This concept is like if you have a dependency, so you've made your class, let's just show it. I don't have something like this, but if I go to examples, we're going to go to source gen. We will go to the console app. Okay, a bunch of stuff in here. Host types has all of these. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Plugin types. So these are a bunch of different classes and stuff that are in here. So the conditional thing that it's talking about is if you had some class and you're like, cool, we have this one as an options type. I think this is a cool feature. With this options flag on here, it manually or source generates options registrations. It's pretty neat. That's a Copilot idea. I can't even take credit for it. Doing the exact same thing, but conditional in this case would allow you to put something like this, and then you could give it some different things. So some of the examples, it's actually like, hey, maybe you actually want it based on your configuration file. Okay, so whatever's in your app settings, and I've seen some examples where it's like conditional, it reads better like conditional on, and then it'd be like security, and then you could do like secret key, or like do stuff, security B, secure, and then it would look for like a Boolean flag or something in the security app settings section. The other things that I've seen are conditional on, and then it's like you can pick an environment. So if you're familiar with ASP.NET Core, you can have like a dev environment, prod environment. I've seen it suggests this doing compilation, like conditional compilation. So it would be the equivalent to like, or like, I don't know, something like debug like this. I'll zoom in, sorry folks. And what that translates to is source generation that essentially is like this. If debug, actually, it's not right here. It would put it around like where it's registering this. So it's kind of neat. I don't, and that only works, by the way, if for source generation, if you are the person performing the build. So if I built something with that in debug mode and then someone else consumed it and they were building in release mode, it's not going to regenerate their stuff. So it's a little weird. I haven't really committed to that, but it keeps coming up. So kind of interesting. Primary/default service. I don't... this is kind of interesting. Needler has a way that allows you as the developer to order things. Now, if you're not familiar with dependency injection in .NET, like the built-in stuff, when you add stuff to a service collection, so if you added, let's go back here. What's a good example in here? Cool. Okay, this is all made up stuff from Copilot anyway, but this one says iConsole manual service. Okay, if you had 10 different implementations of iConsole manual service and you register them, if you ask for one back from the service provider, it will give you the last one registered. If you said, give me all of them, which is just give me a list of them, or an IEnumerable of them, if you said, give me a collection of them, you'll get all of them back. So there are some things in Needler that let us put some order in place, but this is basically saying which one do you want to be the primary. The way that I usually enforce that is just giving control over the ordering. So not super in love with that. This one comes up all of the time, and the frustrating part about this is that it already exists in Needler. So it's a little confusing that I've done this exercise many times. This is probably the 15th time I've kind of done this with Copilot. This one comes up every single time. And I did that before working with Copilot. So I actually built that myself by hand. So I find it confusing that it doesn't seem to recognize that in the code base. When I told it to analyze the features and stuff, I feel like it's probably, that's too general. It's a code base. It's probably missing a whole bunch of stuff. When I tell it, hey, that's already in the code base, it looks for it and finds it right away. So I don't know. Constructor param from config. Oh. Okay. So this is kind of neat. So this says, and again, if you're not familiar with this stuff, because I don't know the total, audience watching this, the way that dependency injection will work sort of by default is that it's going to use constructor parameter passing. Okay, so if we go back here and we look at console report, by default, it's going to pass stuff in here into the constructor that are dependencies that are also registered on the service collection. So if all this sounds like you have no idea what I'm saying, that's totally cool. Do a little bit of homework on dependency injection. If you're not using it yet, I think it's a huge unlock for building stuff. And I had been programming for like 10 years before I even heard of dependency injection. And I feel like it was something once I learned it, I'm like, I literally cannot write software without thinking about this. So it's a pretty big unlock, but we'll pass parameters in automatically from the dependency container into these dependencies in the constructor when we try to get a console report. So what this is saying, if I open this back up, is that we can put something like this. Oh my goodness, come on. There we go. We can put something like this here. What's a bad example? So, okay, you can see here it's like taking greeting from the config. So instead of this, you could do string greeting, and you could actually do this kind of thing. Okay, and then instead of this, you'd be able to say, I don't know, some section cool stuff, and you get that out. So when it goes to build a console report, it's actually going to pass in a parameter called greeting that it's reading from your config file. And what's cool about this is if, for some of you, if you're watching this and you're like thinking about how you could do that by writing the code, the way to do it is that you don't just add console report into your service collection. Because if you live, can you hear me? So you usually don't put a primitive type on here. It can work, but you don't usually do it. So this would kind of fall apart. But what we'd be able to do is instead of adding this by itself, you can do do I have a spot where I can show this? Maybe. You'd basically use a callback, and when it's going to build, you'd say, okay, I'm going to go ask the service provider for this, for this, for this, for this, and I know which string I want to go get. So I'm going to go ask for the I options, which is what it's saying in here, right? On-prems eliminates options boilerplate. This one says config. Same idea. But instead of you going, I'm going to ask the service provider for the options or the config, I'm going to go resolve this thing from the config, right, by doing this lookup. If we were to have this, it can automatically, through source generation, go hook that up. You would never have to write the code to do it. You would just define it as we see here, and it means that it's going to, every time you need to make a console report, look up this value from configuration. I think it's pretty neat. I don't think it's a huge value add if we already have some of the other capabilities, which I talked about very briefly. Let me undo this. But one of the other capabilities we have is, if I go back up, okay, so let me zoom out a little bit. There are many different ways to do this, but you can see all of these ones that have an options attribute on them. We automatically, when you see this, it automatically goes and makes a class for you that's a configuration. So this is another example. It has validation on it. Here's another one, right? So this is a really simple one. It's a really good example of it because if you look at this thing, this is a DTO. It's a data transfer object. It is immutable. You make your security options. That's all you do with it, right? It has 3 things on it. You have this object you can send around and you can read these 3 values. What's really cool is that with this attribute and the source generation that we have, this will go make, because it's a partial record, partial is the magic word here, it will go source generate the rest of the code needed for this so that it will go literally look up a security key from a security, well, it's going to use this as the section. So it will make a thing for you that does something like this. So this property, if I were to write it out, would be something like this: public string secret key. Not, does it do it once on read? I can't remember if it does it on read once or not. I don't think it does, but it would be something like if you had a config passed in, and what's the syntax for it? It's like get section, get secret, and then it would do get string. I think it needs to do one more. Anyway, you could do it like this, get secret, and then it would be, sorry, I'm saying this the wrong way, security. Not doing a good job, Nick, and it's behind my head. Oop. Secret key. So it would build this for you automatically. So like I said, you don't ever see this code, but you get access to it. And to kind of prove to you that's what's happening, let's do this. This is caching options. Okay, so if I go to caching options, all right, I just F12'd on that, it goes to here. Okay. You can see that it automatically made an I options. If you, again, some of these things, if you're not a .NET developer, you might not know, you're not familiar, that's okay. And sorry, it's behind my head. This is so hard to do when I'm streaming and not paying attention. But this is automatically registered for us. And if I were to go run it, because it's automatically registered and there's source generation behind it when it registered, we get an I options, we get an I options snapshot. There's one more. I options monitor is another one that gets made. Anyway, we get all 3 variations of them registered, and you didn't have to do any wiring up to anything. You literally just put this on here, or in this case, this one on here, and you're able to go resolve these, and they're mapped properly for you. So because we have that feature in Needler, this one that it's talking about is neat, but it's not that valuable. This one's another silly one because we already have this. In fact, we don't need an attribute. So if you have a hosted service in Needler, it automatically gets discovered and added. And that means when you go start your application, it just works. Is this a good example? Okay, so if we look at this one, you can, and it doesn't have to be hosting like this, but if you look at this example, this is the program. You can hopefully clearly see I'm not explicitly registering anything, right? You can see I'm saying use source generation. We're going to do it for host is the to get a host builder. We'll add in some other options. So command line arguments, an application name, console logger. We build it, we run it. Okay, but what else is in here? Example service. Okay, so we have an example service, we have an example worker, which is a background service. This thing, because it's a hosted service, if you're not familiar, if I jump into this, this is a .NET thing. I hosted service, okay? So because it's a hosted service, what will happen is it gets automatically added in. No attribute, nothing fancy, because if we go back here, this is saying, oh, let's put this attribute on. We don't even need it, man. You just declare this thing, and that's going to get added in automatically for you. If you don't want it to, we can do the opposite. So Needler by default is going to try to register all the things that it can. And the reason that's the case is because of how I build things. I prefer that. Needler is opinionated. That is my opinion. I build stuff that way. It's a lot more rare that I'm like, don't register that thing. Don't do it. So you add the attribute on when you don't want it. Anyway, that suggestion from Copilot, not a huge fan. Because we already do it. Profile-based registration, no. Modular provider, we have plugins. This one comes up all the time from its recommendations. Event handler discovery, yes, I don't want to go build my own mediator. This is not the library for that. We do have dependency graph visualization, which is super cool. Another thing that Copilot built for me. So, can I show it? I don't know which tool has it. I'd have to go find one. But I could have swore... One sec. I will find it. This one here. If we build it, and I open up the output, you can't see it. Give me 1 sec. Aha! Oh, did I mess this up? I did. What did I do? Let me build it again, but what you can't see is we got this. Okay, so this actually made this documentation for us. Source generated, by the way. How cool is that? It's impossible to read. But it's a mermaid dog. Or diagram, sorry. And so we have this dependency thing. I think depending on whatever tool you're using for mermaid diagrams to view them can look better or worse. But it outputs all this diagnostic information so you can see what's registered. Right? Interceptors, decorators. So this is a decorator that decorates that. This is an interceptor that will wrap that. Factories. I used Copilot to come up with a pattern to basically build one of my favorite features from a dependency injection framework called AutoFac that automatically makes factories. AutoFac, right? Clever. So we have that source generated. Right, lots of cool stuff. But the point is that, you know, one of the things that it's suggesting, we already do that. So to call out what I would normally do here, because we're over time and I'm going to wrap up, and sorry we didn't code a whole lot. We got to check the build output still from CI. Oh, where did that go? Here. I don't want to forget about it. Actions, come on. We got a green light. Let's go. Do you think it worked though? Oh, it did. It did. It added them all. Wow. Thanks, Copilot. You're my best friend. Which ones? Like, okay, we got these SignalR generators. Oh, come on, Copilot. Oh, you had one job, man. Come on. I'm assuming this one's busted too. What about this one was already here. Okay. So I wonder if we're thinking about this, right? Sorry for those of you that joined the live stream at different times. We had some stuff that was excluded from this list. We said, hey, Copilot, it's supposed to be there. And so it found it and it added, like, here's two examples. You can't see at the top, it says Nexus Labs, Needler, SignalR generators, and then same thing, but analyzers. And so it added them, right? We can clearly see that they're in this list. But I wonder if it didn't add them originally because of how some things were being built. Why do these people do this, man? Like, I'm not buying viewers. Buying viewers to watch my stream on how to use Copilot. So it's clearly not doing the right thing, and I wonder. Oh, we got a dog that joined. Who's there? Lila? No? Okay. Make me look crazy. I wonder if it's not working because how some of this stuff was being built in the first place. Like there isn't actually an output. And so now it's cheating itself and it's like, okay, well, I was relying on the output. Let's see, there is a dog. Lila, come here. You sit? Sit. You're embarrassing me. Sit. You can't sit, can you? Lila's going to be 11 years old. Say hi. You're a goof. So I do wonder if it was kind of working around itself, and there's something else that's clearly broken. What else? Like this one I think is new, not found. So all the ones that it added, it's now inventorying them properly, but something else is not doing what it needs to do. So that's interesting. I can't remember where we were. Oh, I went into something. I went into... Come on, Nick, remember, I think I went in here, and then I picked this one. And we had some text that... didn't fix it. That was the other thing we asked for. Right? Lila, you gotta go. You snuck in to lick my knees. We don't want that. So this is still a bug, and what it did over here, where some of these are missing, still a bug. So was it successful? No, but what I would do, I'm kind of all over the place, so I apologize. I really wanted to focus on this part more. So let me wrap up this thought. What I would do over here is I would just give it the guidance again. I would say, hey, look, this is still broken. And I would tell it, hey, look, you got all the right listed packages that I expect, but they're missing things. Now, because I've done this part several times, I would likely give it more guidance. I would do a little bit of homework first, and I would go looking through some of the build logs, seeing what's being output, because so far, if it's had to do it multiple times, it's clearly missing something. Or else it would have done it the first time. And maybe it gets lucky and now it finds it the third or the fourth time. But now that we've gotten this far, I might go do a little bit of work. Just as a heads up, I'm going to start to jump in a little bit more and kind of guide it. So I'll take care of that. This is the kind of thing I was saying that I don't care if it got it wrong. It's kind of frustrating, whatever. But like, I know that I can give it some guidance and it's going to go fix it because it's a solvable problem. Not concerned. For the planning stuff, what I would do is I would say, we already have the following. So remove them from the idea list and consider new ones instead. And so the reason that we're in this kind of state right now where I told you, like, it's already recommended this stuff, I'm in a new session, right? I didn't save that plan or that document, and I could and I should, because if I build this and I'm like, here's a cool list of stuff to do, and I chip away at it, what I don't want to do is close the session and then next time I have this conversation, it starts completely from scratch. I'd like to be able to say, here's a list of stuff we built. Instead of you trying to interpret my code base, just look at this list of stuff. Don't pick stuff from there. What else can we do? So I should save a copy of this, right? So I don't want to say we don't need the first two. We already have lazy P support. What else? We already have automatic I-hosted service support. There's something else here. Oh, we don't need module support. We already have what are they called? iService collection that have ordering and act like autofac modules. What else? We don't have gRPC service stuff. We do have SignalR though. We already have this. We already have in our output. Okay, so what I would do, update the plan to remove the duplicate ideas we already support. Come up with new creative ones. And so, like, obviously when I'm doing this on my own, it's going to be moving a little bit quicker. I'm not trying to explain what I'm doing to a group of people, so that happens faster. And then I'll go between using a foot pedal to talk, but if I'm talking about code references sometimes, I might type it. So the fact that I had to type lazy T, iService collection plugins, like that kind of stuff, I might just type it instead. If it were not in a console and it was just a freeform text editor, I probably would speak it all. And then anytime there's code I'm mentioning, I'll go touch it up. I don't like editing prompt text in a terminal. Like, no, thank you. So we'll see. Maybe this will come up with more creative ideas. Some of these aren't so bad though, right? I'm not upset with it. I don't want to do the mediator stuff. The config stuff. I think this one was the most interesting for me. I like that. It's not adding too much value, but I do think it's adding some value. And some of these other things I think are good. I'm just not interested. I don't want to go build a mediator library. Like there's already a bunch of them. I don't think so. Maybe gRPC service discovery, but I'm not actively using that, so I feel like I'm not a good representative of that. The health check generation, maybe, for ASP.NET Core apps, maybe. But let's see what else it's got. Composite pattern generation, auto-generate aggregates that call all implementations. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? Auto-generate aggregates that call all implementations. And so when it does this kind of thing, like I said, it's probably got more details in the actual plan. I don't want to go open the plan just because I'm being very lazy, but I will ask it, what does this mean? Right? Caching decorator generation. We already have... Oh, we don't have that. We have decorators. We don't have a explicit caching decorator. That could be interesting. I really like using Fusion Cache. Maybe we could have caching decorators and you could have different packages that give you different types of caching support, whether it's Fusion Cache or something else. I think this one, I've seen this come up before. I do really like it. I'm a little bit nervous to commit to it. So I like this because what's really neat is if you have things like decorators or you have interceptors, what we could do, pardon me, we already have the ability to automatically wrap method calls with other ones or entire classes with decorators. And so this is the same thing. It's just that it's a specific kind of interceptor. And so that could be really neat. This one is auto mock for testing, generate mocks. Again, going down this path, in my opinion, is just a lot of effort to go build something like that. We already have mocking frameworks. What's neat about this though is like, if it's source generated, like that's pretty cool. I just don't think you can actually do it. I think you need reflection to get kind of crazy on some of that stuff. Async initialization, that's okay. I don't know what this means. Service aliasing. Yeah, so like I might ask that. So to wrap up this stream, I'll just show you what I would do at this point. So there's a few more things down here, but I would say, I'm gonna take this, and I'll be explicit in the chat. Provide examples with some code or the following, and explain. I'm gonna say one, the integration path in Needler, to the use case benefit. And then I'm going to list them. So there's that one. And the other one I was saying that I don't really know what it means is this one here. And what else? Anything else? No, I think I'll stick with that. I am really interested in something like this. Feels like a big commitment though. So I would do this. And so then I can see in the chat, because like I said, it's probably in the actual plan, but then I can go through. And when folks were asking in our chat earlier, like, why do I prefer this? It's not that I do, but this kind of interaction I've really enjoyed. Getting these plans printed out with some examples and then looking at it. So composite pattern generation, when you have multiple implementations of an interface and want to call all of them as a single operation. So an iNotification sender, we have an email one, we have an SMS one. Oh, it's still thinking. Let's scroll back up now that it's done. So email, SMS, push notifications, developer requests composite generation. So we can say, give me composites. And we have a couple of options. Kind of neat. So I like when it does this so that I can see different ways that we could use it. Because if you read this one, when you have, I think I know what it's going to try to do. It's going to call all of these. Should it do it sequentially or should it just run them all in parallel? And so what it could do for you is automatically go generate this thing. And I'm assuming, yeah, this is pretty crazy actually. So what it would do is anytime you want to ask for an iNotification sender, what Needler would normally do is if you asked for the collection of them, it would give you all three because they'd be registered automatically. If you said, give me one, it will give you the last one registered. And instead, if we had this functionality, this composite generator, you could flag some interface to be composite generated. And when you ask for that interface, instead of getting any of those other implementations, you get this one. Automatically through source generation, no reflection. And what it will do is, this is what I call like a facade class, basically. So it's a facade around whatever interaction you're trying to do. In this case, it's a facade that will call all of the things that it's wrapping. But the cool part is that in your consumer code, you don't even have to know that this thing exists. You just say, I need to send a notification, and it's like, cool, like, I'll give you the notification sender. You don't need to know the details about it. Surprise, it sends notifications everywhere. I think that's pretty neat, actually. I don't know. I have to think about that a little bit, because one of the tricky parts to this kind of thing is that this implementation, when you automatically generate something like that, this code works, but I do think that the people that might want to use this are going to be particular about what happens here. What happens if one of these things fails? Do we keep going? Okay, well, you need to control that now. Okay, we got to come back up here. We have to add another option on here. Now, when it does fail, like what action do we want to take? Okay, do we need to give it a callback method? How does that even work? It's not a constant. Like, I think that when you go down this path, there's flexibility you probably want to provide into how this is made. And that could be pretty tricky pretty fast. I think it's super neat, though. Service aliasing. I have no idea what this means. When a single class implements multiple interfaces, okay, and you want the same instance resolved regardless of which interface is requested, where do you do this? Oh, okay. So the reason this isn't a problem in Needler by default, just to explain, so it's saying when a single class implements multiple interfaces and you, so in this case, reader, writer, file service, if you ask for any of these, it's saying like, oh, we're going to try to build this feature to guarantee if you ask for any of them, it's always the same thing. But like we already do that. Like by default. Yeah, so like right here, our source, like you won't know this unless you've looked at my code, which is fine because it's online. And Copilot wrote it. I didn't even do it. This is what we source generate to already. So what it's saying is an interesting feature, I agree, and we've already done it. That's how it works by default. So now I understand the feature. And so I would kind of repeat this process, right? So I would keep doing this from like, hey, we already do it. Or I would say, hey, I don't want to do that. So I don't want to go make a mediator pattern. Take that one off the list or keep it there, but mark it as like not doing. And I would keep doing this until I have a few ideas. Once I have one, then I say in plan mode, like, let's start walking through how we design this. So that's been my sort of approach the last little bit. I feel like would have been nice to write more code here. Sorry, I blabbed too much. But if you are curious, legitimately, right? Like if you're curious about how this has been working for me, I'm not sending you here to go use Needler in your stuff, but I'm going to put the link in the chat again. Have a look. If you go through the commits, why can't I read? Oh, thank you. If you go through the commits or you clone this and you look at it, right? Like all of this is being written by Copilot, right? I was talking about writing some benchmarks. I had a bunch of stuff for doing documentation in the CI pipeline. This is it discovered a bug. Right, so this is all code. Every single one of these commits is basically Copilot doing something. And so, yeah, if you kind of want some proof that like I've been finding the CLI to be pretty effective for this, there's my code. And yeah, so I'll play around with Copilot CLI a little bit more. I think that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I want to work with Codex. I have not used Codex a single time, so I'll be doing that. And my goal for this year is to keep playing around with different tools, trying them out. I'm just not getting too comfortable with any one of them. So thanks for watching. If you have questions, you can leave them in this chat. You can find me on social media. Just, send a message to DevLeader. If you want, if you have like general questions, right? Maybe not a specific walkthrough. General questions like around AI or other stuff, go to codecommute.com. I'll put the link in the chat as well. You can go to codecommute.com. I will make a video response for you. It goes on my other YouTube channel. And if you do have like a a request for a walkthrough video, let me know as well, and I can go make a video on DevLeader, my main channel, and try some things out. So thanks for watching. Sorry we didn't code as much as I was hoping, but I hope seeing the tool usage is getting you thinking about how you're using it. I don't think I'm doing anything crazy, but that's been my workflow, and I hope it's helpful to see. So thanks for watching. I will see you all next Monday, same time, same place. Take care.